What's good, y'all? It's your boy Sham coming at you live with another episode of the BJJ Lender, a podcast dedicated to empowering Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu athletes and enthusiasts with financial literacy and business insights. As you can see across the table from me, we got a special guest this week. I'd like to introduce my boy Phil Crawford, New Yorker. Fuck the Yankees, though. New York Mets. Queens get some money. So my boy here is a financial consultant. So without saying no further, say less, man. Introduce yourself.
Damn, you came out swinging and jabbing, Sham. Come on.
You already know.
You know it's Yankees, man. You know it's Yankees. Yankees run New York. That's just what it is.
Right.
But I appreciate the introduction. I appreciate you having me on a podcast.
For sure.
You know, just I'm grateful to be here today, you know, to kind of give you guys game of everything I do, who I am, and, you know, really take it from there.
Tell me a little about your background. Thanks for coming to the show. Thanks for your time.
For sure.
Pulling up. You know, we're going to be hitting this podcast with a lot of free gems. Follow my boy. He could tell you his handles. He's his own man. So go ahead, Phil.
For sure, 100% Sham. So I'm originally from Houston, Texas, SWAT, A-Leaf. Grew up most of my life there. Basically left Houston around, you know, 5th grade, went to New York and, you know, found my footing there. And I grew up most of my teenage adult life there. So that's kind of really more so home for me. So I never really got to experience Houston at a adult age, like that teenage age, really. So I just remember all the kid stuff that I used to do, running around in the park and playing ball with my friends and playing football, etc. So it was pretty cool when I, you know, finally got to move back in 2020 here to kind of see the evolution of Houston and see how it is now, because it's just like two totally different speeds, right? I'm in New York, lifestyle, fast pace. Everybody's rude at each other. You're hearing beeping, trains, all that stuff. And then you come down here and it's just like quiet, especially when you're in the suburbs.
Too much
and
space. Mad space, day and night.
So there's no MTA buses like on every corner. So it's just not like that, right? And then people here, Southern hospitality is real. So like someone will say good morning to you, like, what the you know what I mean? And people are always just like, hey, howdy, you know, nice to meet you, et cetera, et cetera. It just doesn't happen in New York. But I'm blessed to be here, man. I'm blessed to be here. And, you know, just a little bit more about myself. You know, I ended up going to private school for most of my life after 5th grade, going into 7th grade. So 7th grade, I really started private school from there and so on.
Where'd you go?
Holy Trinity High School in New York, man.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, so I went to Holy Trinity High School in New York, played football, you know, basketball there, track there. For most of my tenure there, and then went off to go play junior college football, and then got a scholarship offer to go play D2, and I just, you know, didn't take it, obviously, because, you know, financial issues with, you know, schooling, especially going to a big private school, right? And eventually they turned to become D1, and it was too late for me, so I just kind of pursued of just getting my accounting degree, and just took off from there, finished college as fast as possible, just by taking extra credits. So like any college student, I would tell you guys, you know, make sure you take as many credits as possible in a semester, so schools can't scam you from max out. It's not hard, right? Like people think going to school is super hard, but it's really, you know, discipline and time with anything else, right? Because once you hit that real world, you're gonna be like, yo, this is really tough. Like I tell my nieces and nephews all the time, like take advantage of me because I'm giving you all this game, and I just graduated college in 2019, but I understand the school system and how it operates, right? So, like, take all the game that I'm giving you guys from whether it's investing, whether it's building a business, scaling a business, how to market yourself, whatever the case may be is. Funny enough, my nephew texted me yesterday. Well, he texted me a couple nights ago, yo, Unc, I want to learn drop shipping. So I'm like, all right, cool. Have you done your research on drop shipping? He's like, no, but I'm going to look at it and go on YouTube. I'm like, all right, cool. Go on YouTube and then, you know, write some notes down and then come back to me. Then we could talk. So, you know, he wrote his notes down. I said, he's like, he tried to call me on FaceTime. I'm like, man, I'm about to go to sleep. You got to respect my time, right? So he sends me the photo. I said, send me a photo of the notes. So he writes like chicken scratch. So I told him, I'm like, bro, you write like chicken scratch. If you come to me, if you want me to invest, come correct. So I said, dude, I can't read that. It looks good, like you wrote a lot of stuff down on a single page, but go and put that in your notes or go on a computer and type it out. So, you know, he said he's going to do that and then get back to me. I said, and the most valuable lesson I told him, I said, if you go to a business investor with that, you think he's gonna want to invest in you? Yes or no? He's like, no. I was like, all right, cool. So same thing, just because I'm your uncle, same thing I expect, right? Because you want me to put some money towards you to make some money. Right. So I got to see like, yo, you know what you're doing. I know what drop shipping is, but do you know what it is? Do you know what all it takes to do it and be successful with it, right? Everybody's hopping into these different trends of businesses thinking that it may work out. And I don't think other people understand, like, you need to go 100% full throttle with the business. It's like super duper important, right? From understanding the bottom to all the way to the top, right? Especially if you're going to be a CEO, because then when you start hiring people out, a sales team, a HR team, billing team, and payables, you need to know everything was going on to make sure the business is operating efficiently, right? Especially as a small business, a lot of times you're going to be doing the work. You know what I mean? It takes a lot to, eventually come medium size and then become large. It takes a lot of capital.
And the truth is, sorry to cut you off, but the truth is, when you're going into business for yourself, number one, most of us are limited with the capital resources that we got.
Yep.
And this is where Phil is going to come through and give you some free game, okay?
For sure.
But most of us are bootstrapping this shit with the money we got, the credit cards we already got to our name, personal names, right? And we got to learn everything on our own, the bookkeeping, checks and balances, the marketing, the sales. Not all of us are blessed with, like, trust fund or parents that are going to invest in our business. So
for sure,
we work with what we got, so we know each and every role. So when you hear the term CEO, don't take it lightly. Just because I am the CEO, Phil is the CEO, or any small business is the CEO, and they've been running for a minute, don't mean they're just a CEO. We all come from humble beginnings, most of us than
others.
Than others, Thank you. And we start from the bottom up, bootstrap this business, learn each and every role, and when we come into a little bit of money, we start hiring and specializing, right?
Yep, 100%. You got to outsource. The only way you could grow in business is that you have to start outsourcing, but you can't outsource too fast. You got to understand every single role. You got to understand where all your dollars are going and what type of product or service that you really can give to others that they may pay for, right? That's all you're offering, a product or service, right? Like, that's the only thing you can sell to make money. It doesn't matter what it is. So people don't even understand that. There's only two sides of it, product and service. And, a little bit, again, like with, my growing up in story, like, my dream was always to go to the league, to go to NFL. But then I started to realize, like, the numbers start dwindling down more and more and more as you get older. And now it's even harder. I see Matt Barnes talk about this the other day with the NCAA and how messed up it is, because now you have grown men killing young guys' dreams. And I said this the other day to my boys too as well. Like, now a JUCO player can get 2 extra added years on or so, whatever the case may be, and like go ball out. These are grown men, like, playing against, like, maybe 19, 20-year-olds and stuff like that. Like, amateurs should be amateurs and pros should be pros, and that's what it is. And again, I had to realize, like, all right, when that dream was getting cut short, what's the next step? Because a lot of athletes get lost in the mix. A lot of them. Like,
what's
still, you know what I mean? Like, I've had friends take years off because they didn't know what to do. I've had friends, still chasing dreams because they think it's for them and stuff like that, which is cool. But you also got to find and pivot that next route of, hey, like, what are you good at? What are you passionate about? I speak to so many people on a weekly, daily basis, like, oh man, I don't really like my job. And the first thing I ask them, like, what's your passion? What are you good at? And sometimes they can't even answer that, right? Because it's like they haven't found themselves yet fully of how they want to impact the world. And for me, like, a 2020, Sham, I told you this briefly, like, I almost lost my life due to COVID, right? So when I tell people that story, they're like, what? You look fine, da-da-da. I'm like, dude, I was intubated in a coma. I had to get flighted to an ICU unit. It was crazy, right? So, like, all my sisters, my close friends are panicking and stuff like that to see if I would even make it to a thing. Man, I remember I was begging my sister to get my phone back or whatever, because I love music. That's just who I am. So then she was like, nah, you just got out the hospital. Well, I was still in the hospital, but I just went to a lower level. And she was like, nah, you can't get your phone back. I'm like, man, get my phone back, please. Man, I woke up, I probably had like over 800,000 plus messages. So, like, for me, it was more so how am I impacting other people?
Mm-hmm.
That was just huge for me, because like not a lot of people could say that or be able to say I seen that.
Right.
Like for me, it was like, yo, like I impacted that many people, whether I had a super close relationship with them, a mediocre relationship with them, or an okay relationship. I'm like, yo, I know I have a I have a gift to the world to give that God gave me. And for me, it's like impacting as much people as possible, advising them in whatever way is possible. Because I love working with athletes, and I love working with high-level entrepreneurs as well, because they have a gift and they just have to find it. Right? They have a gift and they just have to find it in some way, shape, or form. And I want to be able to give them that game, because a lot of times people are going to try to get over on them. Me and my boy, he's a financial advisor in New York too as well. And we really want to help athletes, like, get to that next level, but understand business from, top to bottom. It's so important, because you're a brand, you can market yourself.
Yeah,
but
you're 1099. You're your own business. Just because you're a player and a contributor to a specific team, you are an independent contractor. They're not paying you no W-2. They're paying you a contract. Yes, they are. Yeah. But at the end of the day, you're entitled to go wherever the fuck you want these days.
It's a different game now. Yeah. It's a different game for sure.
Shout out to Oscar Robertson. He's the first free agent that said, "Fuck my team. I want to get paid." Yeah. And he paved the way for so many other athletes. What's Braun getting paid? Like 60 mil right now?
60, between like 50 to 60, I would say.
That's just his NBA contract.
Not sponsorships.
His sponsorships, he's bringing in like another 100 mil. So he's making almost 200 mil, dude. It's just, how do you brand yourself? Yeah. You are your brand. So,
but you also got to be good too, right? So there's two dynamics to it for sure.
And
100%.
He's a Capricorn too. So what does he tell these dudes, these new kids coming into the league?
You got to work for it. You got to work. He's big on it though.
Yeah, let the main thing be the main thing. You got to be counting your blessing. Shooting, putting a ball into a hoop is what got you here. Yep. This is what's putting food on the table. Just because this isn't your main salary, this is your main occupation. Yep. You might be making, Nike might be giving you a lifetime contract. You're making more money at Nike, Reebok, Adidas all day, bro. They're paying you more than the team is paying you. But still, let the main thing be the main thing, because keys open doors. For sure. Opportunities open doors. It's who you rub shoulders with. Mm-hmm. So with that 100%. Being said, Phil, I just want to get more into your profession. He's the CEO of Pack Consulting. You can follow him on the gram at philly.c. You can see that behind me in the whiteboard. Let's talk a little more about like building credit, personal finance, startup tips, being business consultant. Both of us started off the same way. We started off in financial services, and, we worked our way up and, built our own brand and everything. Mm-hmm. And just like you, I told you offline when, Reeb hooked us up with each other, both New Yorkers and everything. Focus Marketing, shout out to y'all for, representing us on the marketing side, y'all. But New Yorkers, stay together. Screw you, Focus. You could cut that off if you like. But, YouTube, we generating, engagement over here. But real talk, you wrestled, you played ball, you played basketball, football, and you did track. We did the same thing. What position you play in football again?
I played running back and linebacker in high school, and then college safety.
I
never wrestled. I didn't want to touch anybody's butt.
Hey man, it gave me structure and discipline.
Nah, I feel you. I'm just messing.
Just for transitioning from football to wrestling was super easy for me. It's just the same thing, grappling and everything. And I was running back and I was free safety, but I wasn't as big as you. I was probably like 155. So I was tiny, but man, I was like, trucking motherfuckers.
If you was with it, you was with it.
I just wanted to win. I don't care what position you put me in. Yeah. I don't care if it's running back, defensive end, free safety, preferably running back and free safety, because I just want to run and I want to hit motherfuckers. I want to be the last line of defense and the last line of the offense. But yeah. Let's talk a little more about how you like working with entrepreneurs, like you said, athletes and, entrepreneurs and stuff like that, and how you like to, help them find what their purpose is once they hit the finish line. Because thing about athletes is they got a real short shelf life. Believe it or not, you're only playing for 8 to 10 years if you're good.
Yeah.
The average NBA player lifespan is like 3-4 years.
Yeah.
And we're looking at LeBron doing 21 years. Kevin Durant on what, year 17?
Yeah.
Chris Paul, same thing. Like, these guys are, outliers to the statistic. The average athlete has a shelf life of 3 to 5 years. And most of these guys, they don't even know what they want to do next.
Yeah, no, 100%. Just going back, more so, like, again, like I said, athletes kind of get lost in the mix and stuff like that and don't understand the basics of, financial principles and stuff like that. And I think the 3 biggest financial principles for people to understand, so high-level entrepreneurs, athletes turning into business owners, whatever the case may be, is you got to understand, first you need to find out how you can get cash flow, right? How you can get cash flow is huge, right? How can I get money? What product do I need to sell? What service am I good at that I can sell at? And then figure out how can I manage it? Right. That's the second thing. How do I manage it? And, where does everything need to go? Right. From my fixed expenses, my variable expenses, income coming in, and, making sure that everything's running smoothly and efficiently. Right. And then third is obviously reinvesting it. Right. A lot of times entrepreneurs, you're constantly reinvesting in yourself. Right. So athletes that are turning into entrepreneurs, you're constantly reinvesting in yourself. And the dividend might not pay there. Right. We're in an instant gratification microwave right now of wanting it on the spot. And it's just not, it just can't work like that, right? Like, you have to do it for the long haul, right? You got to be in it for the long haul, or business isn't going to be for you.
Right. The pretty shit you see on social media with all these entrepreneurs, on yachts and everything, that's not their everyday life.
That's not their everyday life. No, listen, I tell people, I was just on the way on driving here, and I'm like, man, I'm glad I'm who I am. Like, I don't want to be anybody else. I don't want anybody else to be me. And people get caught up so much on social media, and you'll see the craziest things ever. Like, they're with this person, and then you know what kind of life they really live. Right. And it's okay. I get it. Everybody wants to showboat and show the highlights and stuff like that. Everybody got down periods. Right. I watched Timbaland on the Pivot today, and he was like, yo, like, I was on a ride up. And nobody would know Timbaland, used to take, heavy drugs, to cope with stuff or whatever the case be. And he had the fault.
I think the loss of his dad.
Nah, he was taking oxycodone. I don't know why, but he was taking oxycodone and stuff like that or whatever the case may be is. But, he was like,
it was because of Aaliyah. He was making music for Aaliyah, and he was there in her last shooting for Rock the Boat.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? I remember that because I saw that documentary not so long ago, like a month or two ago.
Okay.
And yeah, he got into a heavy depression after that.
Oh, okay.
For a good amount before Nelly Furtado pulled up on him, and he brought her back up, and he kind of that kind of gave him the second
win. I got you for sure. But so he's like, everybody has to go on their ride up, and then sometimes you're gonna go down. But the true measure of success is how you get back up and you keep going, right? So that happens to a lot of people. Some people quit and some people will keep going. And a lot of people got to understand you got to take things one day at a time, right? You got 24 hours in a day. You got 30, 31 days in a month, except February. Take things one day at a time, because you can make a lot of things happen. Like you said, you're rubbing shoulders with the right person. You may rub shoulders and they may say yes. And it may be a big check. Sales is the game, right? You got to sell. You sell yourself to your wife or your girlfriend or your kids every single day. Little do you know about it. Subconsciously, though, you're doing it, right? And that was a book. I forgot what book it was.
I know which one you're talking about, too.
It was a great book. But I learned a lot from just reading books and just learning from just self-educating myself than more than school taught me about real life, right? Like, a lot of times you're not going to probably maybe 4% or less of what you went and paid for school.
Look, the thing about not to knock on the education system at all, but kind of shameless plug over here, low-key am knocking the education system, is just for employees, for people without a dream. Yeah, you could quote me on that, y'all. Going to school is for people without a dream and that have no direction. They want to work for someone like me who had a C+ in college, but has the hustle, has the grind.
Yeah.
Why? Because athletes have that hunger, they have that drive, they have that discipline, and they'll get it done. I just gotta, it's just when the coach brings out the playboard, the clipboard makes a play, you watch it. And us as athletes, the thing is, we're watching and we're learning on the go.
Oh yeah, that's
Reading a book and taking a stupid ABCD multiple choice exam ain't the way to, retain memory. Retaining skills is by doing it on the job or on the gridiron, bro.
Yeah.
Like, the more we run the play and practice, the better we are game time.
Mm-hmm.
So that's and we just have these, figures that we look up to, our D line coach, our O line coach, our head coach, or like special coaches, QB, running back, receiver coaches. They all, coaches is just a title, but what they go through to become the men they were, or the women, for the ladies out there that are watching us, is just, night and day.
Yeah.
It's that motivation, that discipline. It's that influence that they put towards the youth. And that's what I want to do for the future. Like, I want to inspire the next batch of people like me and you, the next Sham, the next Phil, being out there, becoming better than us, try to get to where we're at 100 times faster.
Yep.
Because I want to help them connect the dots like you.
Yeah. Yep.
And what we do is very selfless.
Yep.
And people don't understand that. Like, sales isn't about making money. It's about, rubbing shoulders, shaking hands, and making connections, because God knows where you're going to end up.
100%. Like, you never know who you're going to meet. And the biggest thing is just building fruitful relationships with people that, that you may have never thought you would become, friends with, or, have a business relationship with. So that's huge. I know, Sham, that you wanted to talk a little bit more about what I do and how I help people. So let's get into that too as well.
Out. So you was talking about like cash flow, one of the first pillars to becoming a successful entrepreneur. A lot of people do not know what resources are available to them. So let's start with cash flow and obtaining capital.
For sure, 100%. So, obtaining capital is, you can go multiple ways. You can go the SBA route. You can go traditional funding. You can go alternative funding. You can go unsecured credit cards. You could do HELOCs. There's like those 5 different items, right? It just really depends on your situation, how your credit profile looks, right?
So if you're a first-time newbie, low-hanging fruit would be the unsecured credit cards with the 0% introductory rates, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
And that'll help you, springboard your business.
But we also got to take a step back, right? So we also have to build our credit profile to look a certain way, right?
Yeah,
so
let's talk about that.
So when I tell people, when I look at their credit profile, the biggest thing first is like making sure that their personal information is correct, right? So having one name, having one social security, having one address on your credit report is huge, because now they can connect the dots with like every account that you have going on, right? So we want to just have 111. That's super important, right? One social security. We don't want to have all these other different information. From there, probably getting an unsecured a secured credit card at your local credit union or close bank in your region or area.
This is before filing for a business.
This is building your credit, right? This is building your credit. This is super important, right? And I tell everybody, like, if you have a child at 16 years old, to put them on as an authorized user if you have good credit. If you don't have good credit, don't do it, right? Because it's just hurting them, right? And I tell people all the time, like, when they want trade lines, I'm like, well, how's your credit? It has to be good for it to benefit you, right? Because really all it's going to do is either hide the utilization and boost your credit or stuff like that, right? And it's not going to stay on there for forever once that person removes you.
Right.
So that's stuff that, people need to know and understand as well. But getting over 5+ accounts is super important, right? Your student loans count as accounts. Your mortgages count as accounts. These are account mixes, right? Your auto loans count as an account. Your credit cards count as an account. So those are all stuff that count as accounts, right? Having low inquiries on your credit report, super important as well. Don't let the dealership run your stuff 50+ times, killing your credit for no reason. So I tell people that all the time. It's about building your credit profile. A lot of people get so much stuck in the score when they gotta build their credit profile to a certain extent.
And what are some tips on how to build or repair credit effectively if you fucked up?
So building and repairing credit effectively if you messed up is, again, right, attacking the personal information at first. Seeing if there's erroneous items on your credit report with the account that it's attached to, right? So So if I look at the credit report profile, just blank, boom, I got to go into the account and see if there's an error.
Right.
Is there a 30, 90 days, and then 120 days late payment? How do you go from 30 to 90? That's an error, right? Yeah. So, that's something that you could dispute or whatever the case may be is. Showing no data to a charge off or whatever the case may be is. That's an error that you can, dispute as well. So there's simple stuff like that. And there's obviously sequences that people need to do. So if you do need the help, you could reach out to Pat Consultant and get your credit fixed and restored. Because a lot of times people don't understand credit restoration is a lot of work for somebody to do it themselves and keep up with it without having a system, right? Or knowing the sequences of how to do things, because they're going to do it themselves, get tired of doing it, and then go to somebody that really knows what they're doing, how to do it. Because obviously there's a lot of fluff of credit repair organizations. That's why it gets a whole bad rap, right?
Yeah.
So
especially there's an MLM credit repair out there that
I don't even know.
That, I think they closed down back during the height of COVID because they got busted. And they just couldn't keep it going. But, it's these MLM credit repairs.
MLM anything, honestly. There's so many MLMs of the network marketing stuff that goes on and stuff like that, trying to get other. That's the whole thing with MLM, right? And why I despise it is because they're trying to get somebody else to believe in something that they may not really believe in.
Especially in our industry, like Primerica. Primerica, I got Primerica agents on my, IG and my social media spamming, saying, the advice you're giving is not legit. Well, do you work with the ultra wealthy? Do you work with the ultra wealthy, yo? The people, you're treating this shit as a part-time job. Sell term, invest the rest. Nah, fam. There's a lot more to this. There's levels to this shit. So I don't want to get
nah, you good. I know.
Like these MLM shits, they're not educating you the proper
way. That's my whole big thing with the MLM stuff. You got to get educated the proper way. Like for me, like there's no shade that I don't throw at any company or anybody, but like
educate food on the table at the end of the day for your family. God bless you.
But educating a client is super duper important. I just had a call today with a client. And she said she worked with somebody else or whatever the case may be is. And she's like, I have the money. I have the cash flow to fix it or whatever. But my biggest thing is communication. And I was like, yo, that's me too. When I talk to people, like the biggest thing is communication. But also coming to me correctly as well was huge as well for me. So like tone of voice or whatever the case may be is, right? Because some people don't have that or whatever the case may be is. And as a business owner, you have to know who you're talking to because every client is super different, right? But they also have to respect and value your time as well because you have other clients that you're helping too as well. And I gave her the whole spill. She was already comfortable with working with me. And I was like, and she had a heavy tax bill or whatever the case may be. I was like, well, I'll connect you with somebody that can look it over just in case. If you want to work with your person, cool, that's fine. But let me just give you a second opinion and see what we're looking at.
Right on. Yeah, and that goes to the next step. Like, you're doing that, you're fixing the credit, you're building your credit, right? And you're, after you build up a foundation, what's the next steps you do? And how, when you're building that side hustle, gig economy, and managing irregular incomes. Yeah. And you're just like, I'm tired of the rat race, the 9 to 5. You want to get out. Like, what advice do you give to the hustlers out there?
For sure. For the next step, you either you built your credit or you fix your credit because you have some little miscellaneous items on there. Right. It's then forming a LLC, right? Or purchasing a shelf corporation, right? An LLC is shelf corporation is basically like a seasoned business, right? But it also needs to make sure it hasn't had any tax liens or any negative stuff on the shelf corp, right? So you can have seasoned LLC, right, from 2+ years, 4+ years, 6, whatever the case may be,
that, gives you more juice.
More juice, and it's like okay, they've been open for X amount, and you could change the name, you could change the business name, as long as that person has never done taxes on it or whatever the case may be. It's basically like a domain name or like an Instagram handle, right? If you have LeBron James's Twitter, and he's gonna hit you up like, yo, I want that. How much do you want for it? Or he's gonna try to find you and get it from you. Right?
You're LeBron, you're a motherfucking billionaire. Give me half your net worth.
So, because he wants that name because it's important for him because that's branding for him, right?
Exactly.
Super important. So yeah, starting off with the LLC or a shelf corp, more than likely, if you don't have LLC for 2+ years, 1 year, it could be pretty. You could probably get a decent amount of funding with that, but I think 2+ years is more so where you can get a little bit max. That's a sweet spot, right? Because it's like you're showing them, okay, you've been in your business for a year. Okay, you've been in business for 2 years. What are you doing? Like how can we help implement cash into your business? Because at the end of the day, yeah, you may get a 0% interest rate, but again, you're gonna have to pay us back once that introductory rate is over, right? So you gotta find a way to really hustle, muscle, and use your credit the proper way. A lot of times people mess up and forget, like, oh, let me just use credit. Cash flow is still king. I don't care what anybody says. Cash is always going to still be king because you need a certain amount to live on your daily day-to-day basis with your expenses, right? So that's my first thing. Cash flow, managing it, reinvesting it, investing it. Right. Super important, those 3 pillars, right? So then from there, like, again, like you have those different alternatives. So you have SBA, unsecured credit cards, secured loans, alternative lending, and stuff like that. Right. Your situation just depends on what your credit profile looks like. You may be somebody with heavy cash flow, but have poor credit. You got to go to alternative lending route, right? Kind of more so. MCAs. Stuff like that. It's not the best way, but it's like when you're in a jam and you want to need some more money, or you go ahead and pay that money to fix your credit. Right. You know what I mean? And do it over again. So that's just how it kind of goes. Now, if you got the credit, you got the business tax returns now, because a lot of stuff has gotten stringent. You want to show income or whatever the case may be is to these lenders that are going to give you money. A lot of times they're going to want to see it. Yes, you may get no doc stuff or whatever the case may be is, and you got to work with the proper people. Pat Consulting can help you. But that's kind of how it kind of, more so goes, right? And people can get approved from 50 to 250,000, and you can get more with SBA, but also you can either buy an existing business or you can start your own business, but you got to be able to show the revenue if you're starting your own business and making sure you're working with a CPA and a tax strategist to make sure that your income is looking proper, right? And then if you're buying an existing business, you can use the financials of the existing business.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's actually one of the things I wanted to pivot towards right after, some people, well, not even some people, we're hitting a period where the greatest wealth transfer of all time.
Yep.
All right. So there's a lot of boomers out there about to, retire. And the thing is, most of these guys are going to close their doors. Yep. And they have nobody to hand it over to. They're just
some of them.
Yes. Yeah, some of them. Now, this is where us youngins come in, because we could come in and revolutionize their business. But it's not even about revolutionizing the business. It's keeping that name going, right? Because they
already built it up.
Yeah, they built it up. They're a stronghold and an influence in the community. Now, let's talk about purchasing businesses. Like, what things do you need to do to get to that level in the game?
So, I mean, purchasing businesses, they're not complicated, but you also need to have the cash reserves, at least 10% of whatever action price that they're looking for. Maybe do seller owner financing with the business owner as well. So it just depends on you reaching out to either the broker or getting headlines straight. I like to go straight to the plug. Right. I don't like the middleman. That's just me. I'd rather speak to the owner and see, what we can negotiate and what we can handle. So having 10% plus at least for cash reserves, maybe you buy a franchise, or maybe you purchase a franchise that somebody started running and they're like, I can't put the time into it. That's what I'm saying. So when I tell people all the time, like, when you're going into business, you got to really love the product or service that you're doing. Right. Because you're going to make, again, like, a lot of times, how you said, the wealth transfer is about to happen with these boomers and stuff like that.
Trillions of dollars,
of course. And a lot of times, a lot of that money may go to the family member or somebody. They may not want it. Everybody thinks differently. God made us all different, right? Of how we think, of how we look.
Yeah, maybe one day I'll have a kid and they don't want to take over fortitude.
So that's just what it is, right? So you can't force, because that's not their dream or whatever the case may be is, but there's ways you could structure that too as well. And, maybe Fortitude closes down, maybe Pat Consulting closes down, whatever the case may be is. But also, you gotta become in a strong suit of like, hey, like, I need to focus on this one main stream of income, but how can I multiply it? Right. How can I multiply it and get some money out of like 7 different ways out of my mainstream of income?
Right. man, in this day and age, it's just everything's out there. You know?
Yeah.
Social media, you're building that, and now thanks to AI, technology, automations, we could go the whole nine. So we're talking about, like, you know, different levels to this shit. You know, you start in the very bottom, build up your credit, form a business, or you could purchase a business. Now, let's throw it the other way when you're trying to purchase a business, or it goes with someone who's starting up as well. You know what I'm saying is, you don't have the credit, but you have the money. You talk about alternative. Now you don't have the credit, but you don't have the money, but you know people, but you don't want them to be on paper. Yeah. How do you utilize other people's money? And I'm not talking about the banks.
Yeah, you're talking about private lending.
Yeah.
So you're talking about private lending, man. That's a relationship based heavy.
Exactly.
Heavy.
Go to your uncle, go to your aunt. You know?
Yeah, I work with a lot of private investors too as well. So like, it's just building relationships over time and like having the idea, because for them, right, they just really want the return, but they're gonna do their research as well, but they may not have the time because they have something going on that's going good for them, but they want to probably multiply a couple of dollars or whatever the case may be is. See if you could do one deal good first or whatever the case may be is, and come back and do a second, third, fourth, fifth deal and stuff like that or whatever the case may be is. Right. So, that's just basically finding people that, possibly may have money, or like you have an investment idea, like, hey, I can get a return on that. Cause that's eventually what I would want to be, right? Is that private investor. And like people have hit me up to do that. Am I at a place to do that right now? Not yet. It's coming for sure, but not yet.
That's the goal, man.
That's
the
goal.
I just want to be syndicating on deals and just watch my money go to work. I mean, I love y'all, but this is just level one, okay? I don't want to be talking to y'all on a daily basis unless you're, Bill Gates or something. You're over $1 billion net worth. When you come to me, I'll talk to y'all. I'll manage y'all finances. But, for right now, I got to deal with, I love y'all, man. I love what I do passionately. It's not about the money. I've been in the game for over a decade, almost 15, 16 years at this point. I just love what I do because it comes to that point where that high is gone. Every time you're closing a deal, in the beginning, it was like crack, man. It's an addiction. But now it's just like, this is my purpose.
It's quality, yeah.
It's just like, okay, what's next? What's next? It's not like taking a coke bump or a weed cut. By the way, my boy is sober as hell. I'm represented by a CBD company, just saying, okay? We'll plug that in someday, not today. But, it's just that high. You're searching for that next high. Yeah. So now, like, after a decade, years in the game, you're just like, you love what you do, and this is why we're here. But my thing is, I want mini Shamiers. He wants mini Phils taking over the business or learning the roots. And maybe when it's our time to step down, we could just take a chairperson or a board role, and we'll just watch y'all run. Because hey, we crawled so y'all could walk, and then y'all walked so the next generation could run. Or whatever the saying is. And let's get to the next part. Like, okay, I don't know people. I don't have no credit. But I know that I could go to my, county or my city and get something called a grant. Now, what do we do about that, Phil?
So grants are a little bit different because grants are like scholarships. Right. You got to find out. You got to go out and search for them as well, right? And they got to like fit they got to fit, I guess, like the description of what criteria. You do, basically, the criteria, right? So it's like 20 people could apply for it. One person get picked. You know what I mean? So it's just like scholarship. So it's a needle in a haystack. I'm not going to lie when it comes to like funding and stuff like that. But, I mean, can it happen? For sure, 100%. I know a lot of people do GoFundMe's right now and stuff like that as well. The marketing of, helping others or whatever the case may be, is that
and all that shit.
To help them out, to get them to get started. You got VCs, venture capitals, but with venture capitals, a lot of time you have to have super, super great ideas. Yeah. You have to have super, super great ideas.
We're not talking about like $1 million, $2 million. It has to be like 9 figs.
Yeah. We're talking about like super, super great ideas, on to get funded by VCs. And meeting the proper person for VCs. Right. Actually, funny enough, I'm supposed to meet with a VC guy this month too. So working, bro. Just networking.
I
just
love my VCs. You like your VCs. I like old money.
Nah, I like, but it's not about for me to like, I may or may not utilize them. Is for me to like see how they think, like how things are operated with, you know, VCs and stuff like that, because I want to understand from the private equity side, from the VC side. Like people don't understand that stuff. There's a lot of depth to it and stuff like that. Right. So I think, you know, that's cool for me to just learn and just build a relationship with someone again, right? Because this guy's an older gentleman, so I don't know what thing. I'm like, hey, I'm doing this, that, and third. I want in.
Right.
I don't know.
Mentor me, man. Mentor me. And this goes back.
Now he may say I want in with what I'm doing, right? So like, I'm just like, all right, cool.
Well, no problem. You want to be, you know, you could teach an old dog new tricks. Same way.
Always.
You know, we're young bucks, but you know, we've been doing this for quite some time. You know, so we're talking about grants. We're talking about loans. We're talking about low-hanging fruit, credit cards, just building yourself up. Let's talk about the different stages different stages of an application when you're applying for this stuff. Like, how do you make yourself a bulletproof candidate when you're applying for a loan, a credit card, and stuff like that? What things do underwriters or the system look for?
Yeah.
I know, he knows. I used to be a banker. I know. But, you know, Pac, go for it.
So, I mean, again, it depends more so on the product, right? Yeah, I just got a client approved for like 30. That's still a lot of money. Yeah. You know what I mean? With
35 bands, don't use it all, man.
Yeah,
don't get a Bentley.
So, you know, for his business or whatever the case may be and he had the proper docs, and we went through the SBA route and stuff like that. Because, you know, his credit isn't like fully in tip-top shape to thing, but it's enough for him to get that. But it depends on the product. Always it depends on the product. Right. Every bank has their own internal system of how they look at stuff, right? That's super important. What was you had asked another question too.
Application
wise. So really you have to bulletproof your personal profile. Everybody thinks that it's their business profile, and again, it is at a certain point eventually when you're trying to get higher and higher amounts of capital, but to get that initial, you have to bulletproof your personal credit profile.
Yeah, and some advice towards that. You already mentioned, like, you know, the different parts of a credit profile, the mix. You know, you got the, you know, loans, you got the, you know, revolving debt, which is just fixed rate. Yeah. You got the, you know, credit card debt, which is, you know, it's not an installment, it's just revolving. And the number, it's variable debt. Yeah. And then you have, like, you know, you have your car loan, you have your mortgage, you have like different trade lines that make your profile
stronger. So right, like having more accounts is going to make your profile stronger. Having not a lot of inquiries is going to make your profile stronger. You know, opting out of secondary bureaus so people can't, like, the internal system, they can't pull all that and see the soft pulls or whatever you got going on.
Tell them about that, Pat. Tell them about that. You know, talk about Sage Street, talk about LexisNexis. Let's talk about the secondary bureaus.
Secondary bureaus, basically, you know, just like when you got soft pulls. So like, let's say you got pulled, it doesn't show as a hard pull, but it shows as a soft pull like 60 times or whatever the case be. They can see it on their end, like, oh damn, he's been applying for credit application. Why is he not getting approved? So not to approve you.
Tell these new cats that are coming here for free game over here. How do you opt yourself out? Because correct me if I'm wrong. Secondary bureaus are way more dangerous, because they're like the data brokers, right?
So basically, like, they can see everything you got going. So like, if you have, like, let's say you may have like a bankruptcy shown on there, but not a bankruptcy shown on your thing anymore, right? So like, you gotta opt out all that stuff, so they're not able to sell your information to other people. Because basically, like, you may see something in your email from a marketer you ain't never seen before. You're like, yo, how do you get my email? So a lot of those things like ShadeStream, LexisNexis, and there's some other CoreLogic as well. Like, those are the secondary bureaus, and there's a couple more too as well that like pull from certain stuff to get your information to sell to others. So that's kind of how that works more so. So they can see, like, if you got a bunch of soft inquiries that got pulled, or if you have anything like on your credit that may not show on the bureaus. The main bureaus, Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion, is showing on there possibly as well. So you got to go and double check and look at all this stuff. So that's why a lot of people don't understand how credit is, like, super important, but also a lot of work to fix when you mess it up as well. And some people are not like patient enough to really understand that. And a lot of people are not educated to give them that game. What I'm telling people today, you know,
because I'm gonna say this every fucking podcast or every chance I get. I'm a first generation American, y'all.
Yeah.
What our family, what my parents came equipped with, they didn't know about credit.
No.
They didn't know about that. If they spent $1 on their credit card, they're gonna think like they're about to get arrested if you don't pay them back.
That's true.
Like, but there's you have the statement balance, the closing balance, all that shit. We don't got to get into it. I want to do a quick, like, from a high level overview, 35,000 feet overview. We are talking about the secondary bureaus and all that, all the data that they could sell to the bureaus, the information. What legal actions are out there? Because I want to plug you in, Kat.
Yeah.
You're all about suing they asses.
Yeah,
100%. Collections and all them motherfuckers asses. So let's plug you in real quick, bro.
Yeah, for sure. So like right now, I'm like really focused on suing debt collectors to help people. Right. Because I actually had a call yesterday with a lady. She had like 4 collections and they're trying to garnish her wages and close their bank account and stuff like that. And she worked with 2 other people before, and they were like, oh, she's like, well, I don't see when people tell me like they work with other people or if they've done it themselves. I'm like, listen, I don't know what you did or what you had going on, but let's just start over and just start from scratch. How can I help?
You did it their way or you did it your way, and neither worked. Now you're gonna do it my way,
right? So that's just how I view it, and it's not to be disrespectful or anything like that. But it's like, all right, cool.
Got a process.
I got a process. So let me go through my process to help you out, and then hey, if we get to that finish line where it's like, yo, it's deleted, you're gonna thank me later, right? So like, I tell you, you have to. If you mess up your credit, you have to invest in it. You can't look at it as an expense, right? Because that's how you gotta look at it. Because if you can fix this all up, and you can get 100,000 ball, and you got a business idea, what can you turn that into?
Millions.
Right? If you do it properly, if you do it right, you know what I mean? So it's just really more so up to you. I seen I forgot who the guy said, but once you get that first 100,000, right? Like, and you should be able to flip that and go somewhere and take it to another level, right?
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
The saying is, you make your first 100,000.
Yep.
The first million, you build a team.
Yep.
And then the 10, then the 100, then the billion. It
goes on.
The first 100 is all you. Then to get to 1 million, you got to realize you can't get there
alone. Hell no. You got to go to team.
Like you said, you got to outsource your shit.
Yeah.
I can't be doing I am the sales guy, but I can't be doing my marketing. I can't be doing bookkeeping and all that. Like, I want to focus on the bottom line, and I want to be in front of people. And the more people I'm in front of, the more productive I am. I don't have time for this administrative shit, like, taking applications.
Yeah.
I got someone for that. But,
yeah.
That's by the grace of God. So we're taking legal action, suing their asses, because the truth is, Phil, I want y'all to talk about this, because when people get that collection notice or collection charge on their credit profile, do they have to pay them back?
No, not really, because you don't have any written documentation with them.
Exactly.
Right. You don't have it. It's like we made a bet.
Right.
Let's simplify in terms. I made a bet with you.
Right.
And I lost, or whatever the case may be and then your other friend over here wants the money.
And you sold it on let's just use names. Chase Bank, Midland, right?
Yeah.
You had a debt with Chase Bank.
Yeah.
Midland bought out that debt, and you're no longer liable for that debt because Midland bought your credit card debt. Well, let's just say it's $10,000 for $100.
Yeah.
And they're trying to hustle you for that money.
Yeah.
Saying, oh, you still owe $10,000 to Chase Bank. No, you fucking don't, because you bought my debt off them.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of times, certain banks or whatever the case may be is they may do a charge off and write it off on their taxes as well and stuff like that. And they'll send you a 1099-C form. But if utilizing the FDCPA is like super important, especially with debt collectors, man, because you can catch them on so many violations. But that written, and sometimes they might not even notify you that they purchased the debt. It just shows on your bureau. You know what I mean? So like, You didn't even tell me. You know what I'm saying?
That off chance, they're like freaking. They'll call you 6-7 times a day.
Oh yeah,
pick up the damn
phone.
And when they call you, what you tell them?
You can record the call.
Yeah.
You should record the call.
Right.
You should record the call, hear what they saying and stuff like that, or whatever the case be. You don't got to tell them your name. You don't got to tell them anything. You know what I mean? You could just say, hey, you know, you can listen to everything that they're saying and record the call. That's catching them on a violation.
Copy.
You know what I mean? So there's so much stuff, and I can help you guys out when suing your debt collectors to help you get them fully removed. I had somebody like with 75,000 worth of debt collections.
I saw that on your story. That was yesterday.
Yeah.
Wiped out.
Yeah, but
How happy was that person?
No, didn't wipe it out. I asked him, I said, what's the total amount and how much do you feel like you think you should pay me? Like, you know what I mean? Because I'll play reverse psychology with people, because again, you're not looking as an investment.
Right.
You're looking as an expense, but you have $75K worth of debt. So would you rather pay my price or would you rather pay that price and still deal with bad credit?
Right.
And then I can sue on top of it and possibly get you compensated back.
Copy. Man, I'll pay you. I'll pay you. I'll pay you pennies to get that debt off.
Yeah.
Why would I pay 75 bands when your let's just say your service is one band,
two bands.
Yeah, I'll pay you $2,000. I'm investing
to get it off.
Yeah, but we're business owners. We understand that.
Yeah.
People coming out the woodworks, they fucked up in college because we didn't have this kind of education. We thought credit card was just free money. We swipe it, we don't got to pay it back. Newsflash. When you become an adult, you got to go buy. You want to go to a dealership, you want to buy a car, or you got to run your credit to move out your mama's house to go into an apartment. And then there's levels to this shit, bro. We could keep going. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like for the youth out there, not just the youth, for people watching this, the next crop of business owners, what do you want to leave them with before we drop off here? For
sure, 100%. Take your credit super, super, super serious. I told my
cash is king, but credit is queen.
Yeah. I say that. I say that to people all the time. They look at me crazy. I'm like,
I got that from you.
Yeah. But I say it. People look at me crazy, but my mind thinks different than a lot of people. You know what I'm saying?
What does the king do in a chessboard? They move
controls the shit.
One box at a time. What's a queen do? A queen could go anywhere.
Yeah, but you gotta understand though, cash flow is king, man. If you have $10,000 worth of expenses, you making $30,000. What's your net after the month? 20 racks. You know what I'm saying? So that's how you gotta look at it. But take your credit super serious. Hang around the right people. And network and build relationships at an early age is so important. My mom sent me to Catholic school and private school, and I like to say I'm
change the people you were around.
Not even no. It's not about me changing the people I'm around. I just always knew how to adapt and talk to people. Like I was always interpersonal. It doesn't matter the race. I never look at color or any of that situation, right? It's just like how I could talk to people at the end of the day and relate to them in some shape or form.
Copy.
That's big. That's
facts. And communication, it's 3 C's: communication, cash, credit. That's fundamentals.
Fundamentals.
But let's leave them with some gems. Let me plug you in right quick. Where can we find you?
For sure. You can find me at philly2y's.c or at p.a.c consulting. On Instagram, on YouTube. You can search me on LinkedIn, Phil Crawford. You can see my financial advisory license there, Series 7, 66, 63.
Legit financial advisor, y'all. Not you funding. He does funding too. Yeah, he does funding.
I tell people all the time, I just run a financial hub, right? If I wanted to have a registered investment advisory firm, I could. If I wanted to have a private equity group, I could. So it's just, it's for me, it's just, I want to help people the best that I can.
Right.
You know what I mean? This is just my realm. I'm just like, I'm good at consulting and I'm good at talking to people and I'm good at helping people in their situations to help them out. Because even now, like people are like, yo, how can I grow my business? I can educate you on that because I had to learn. Because again, like me, like being that lone wolf, and I'm like, yo, like I'm free-nillying as an entrepreneur, making this money, but all right, like, what's missing? What can I need to add other pieces to the board to help me get to making $50,000 to $100,000 a month.
Right, man. So you already got the words, Phil. Thank you.
Appreciate it,
And
boss.
you already know where to find me, the BJJ Lender. Fortitude Strategic Solutions is out here for, your accounting and financial services. And my boy, strategic partner right here, Phil Crawford, anything financial, anything funding, if you need to get your, credit fixed to get to the next level, or you just want to level up and you want to grow your business from bottom seed to top seed. You're an acorn and you want to become a California redwood. He's your guy. Phil,
Appreciate it. Appreciate you for having me.
Until next time, y'all, BJJ Lender, you know where to find me.
Peace.